Hello everyone, it's Joe here from Draft FPL and we are back with a brand new season of Draft FPL content. Now, the main draft content schedule will be starting next week on Monday, but just before I get stuck into it, I just kind of want to talk a little bit around original classic FPL, Draft FPL, and kind of how they interact with each other. I've been playing both for a little while now. I think this will be my 10th classic FPL season and I think my 9th draft FPL season. So I've got quite a decent background in both of them, and I know that a lot of people that just play regular FPL are starting to get a little bit frustrated that, you know, the game's changing a little bit, and I just want to kind of cover that, talk about it and how it interacts with draft and how you can make both of them really enjoyable. So the first kind of topic on this is, has classic FPL changed over the years? And the answer really is yes. It has definitely changed over the years. The prices are now much more friendly than they used to be. They're basically trying to get as much engagement as possible, and I can understand why they're doing it. I think it has changed the dynamic of the game. I think FPL used to be all about finding hidden gems, goalkeeper rotations, 4.5 million defenders that you could fit into your team to make everything else tick, and that's not really the case anymore. I've kind of got this graphic which I got from Wee Rogue on Twitter, which I think demonstrates it really well, and this doesn't even include this current upcoming season. So you can see there's a clear downward trend, especially in the midfield. There's definitely no doubt that kind of the premium the highest points players are still pretty much the same price. You know, Haaland coming in at 14, Trent at 8. These players would have been that price a long time ago, but that next echelon down that used to be all sort of 10 to 12 million, they've all been shunted down like 1.5 million at least. We've got more 4.0 playing defenders now. We've got more midfielders in like the 6.5 bracket. They're all really viable. And what this means is you don't really need to look outside the top 6, top 8 for players anymore, really. And if you do, it's because someone's a seriously friendly price. Let's just have a look at. So I found these screenshots in my camera roll. So the team on the left was the team I started the 2016-17 FPL season with, and the team on the right was just my first draft that I made the other day. And it's quite a stark difference in terms of the calibre of players we've got here. So the team on the left, I started with Aguero, Ibrahimovic, Sanchez and Hazard, and that was kind of a 4 premiums-ish. I think Aguero was 13, Ibra and Sanchez were about 11, Hazard was about 10, and that is mainly because the sort of second tier of players were all really expensive. You either had to really go for it with expensive players, or like the downgrades were massive. So you can see the rest of my attackers. I've got Lamella, he wasn't even nailed on and was about 6.5 million I think. Faguli, Andre Gray. The defence is an absolute shambles. After John Stones was my only premium, then we had the likes of Friend from Middlesbrough, Suarez at Palace, then we've got 4 millions on the bench that never played. So it was quite a tough, puzzle to solve to find a decent starting 11, and if you did go for more premiums like I did in this one, you had to really sacrifice the bench. If we look at that contrasted with my current first draft on FPL now, we can see that I've got Haaland, obviously, most expensive player in the game. I've then, the rest of my attackers, Jesus, Saka, Sterling, Fernandes, Foden, Maddison, all really good picks and all playing in the big 6 clubs, really. I haven't had to look outside the top 6 at all. I could have quite easily changed Sterling to Mitoma, which would obviously then, diversify a little bit, but he's a fantastic pick. Could have also gone for Newcastle attackers. There's just so many choices in the midfield and forward, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that the dynamics have shifted massively. Even my bench, Guehi, Palace were like the 3rd best defence last season. He's 4.5. Contrast that with like Peters from Stoke. It's just they're the same price. It's a massive change. And even Bell, my second substitute, 4 million, the same as I had in 2016, but the difference is Bell is pretty much nailed on. So massive difference there. And then I've got the 4.5 million forward who won't be playing. That, you know, hasn't changed, although there weren't many 4.5 million forwards in the game at all back then. So it is a massive shift. And what this means is there are obsessive FPL managers out there like myself that love researching the smaller teams, looking at how you can rotate these defenders to make the most of the fixtures so you can squeeze in the value in the rest of your team, looking at goalkeeper rotations, when to swap keepers to hit the fixture runs, stuff like that. It's just not the game anymore. FPL has changed fundamentally in how you do well, and how you do well now is hopping between premiums, making the right captaincy decisions, and, you know, getting on and off the big players at the right time, because you can hold Botman, Zinchenko, Gahey all season. Those three defenders you don't need to touch all year. Even Trent, that you can have that set for the whole season. And then you're just juggling forwards and midfielders, which is a very different game to how it used to be. Again, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but it is a shift, and there are people that will be trying to scratch the itch that they used to have from FPL, when it was important to know, you know, the promoted teams, the smaller teams, who's going to start and who's not. And I think these are the exact kind of things that you do in draft that really set you apart. Goalkeeper rotations are a massive part of draft, in my opinion. I never really go for the premium keepers, so having a season-long goalkeeper rotation is massive, especially in a 10-team league where all 20 keepers are going to be taken. You really need to know what you're doing at the draft. Defensive fixtures, you know, there's always defenders available on the waivers, so picking up teams with good runs of fixtures and decent chance of clean sheets is massive in draft. I probably make on average 2 defensive waivers per week, just to keep on top of that and try and maximise my clean sheets. Finding hidden gems in the waivers, for instance, players like Almiron, Matoma last year were massive in draft. If you picked up those two at the right time, you absolutely flew. And those are the kind of things you don't... Obviously, people did own those players in FPL, but by the time you've picked them up, everyone else has them as well. So it's really not that enjoyable when they get returns. But that feeling you get in FPL when you pick a player, a differential, someone under 5% ownership, for instance, and they score, and you get that amazing feeling knowing you've got a goal that basically no one else has got. You get that in draft every single game week, every time one of your players score. It happens like 5 times a week. And it is such a different feeling knowing that it's your player that scored and no one else is involved. It's a brilliant feeling, and it's something you don't get in FPL. And it's not necessarily that I'm saying draft is better, but it's a different experience. And, you know, my overriding point of this whole video really is that I think you can get so much more enjoyment out of FPL if you play draft as well. And it's the same with draft. You can get the same level of enjoyment if you also play regular FPL. They're 2 different games that complement each other really well, because classic FPL is moving towards this big hitters, premiums, big teams. It's something you don't get in draft, because generally you only have 1 or 2 or maybe 3 players from the top 6. You know, these big names, you've probably only got 2 of them. Whereas FPL, you're juggling between all of them, picking them up at the right time. It is a different ball game really, but draft is way more strategic in my opinion, in terms of you have to know the smaller teams. You have to know who's starting, because if you're in a 10-team league, you've got 150 players going to be drafted, right? So you need to know who's going to be starting for the teams, you know, in the 14th to 16th sort of category, because you're likely going to have at least 1 or 2 of them. And picking up midfielders from those teams that go on a run of form is like a massive high. So yeah, I just think they complement each other really well, because they are very different. The strategies are different, but kind of if you enjoy that strategic knowledge-based side, then I think draft is like a no-brainer to play. The main thing with draft, I think a lot of people tried it when it first came out and dismissed it quite early. I think one of the most important things is that you're in a competitive league with other managers that really care. Because in FPL you're playing against everyone, you're kind of you versus the field. It doesn't matter quite so much if you're not very competitive with other managers, whereas draft, obviously it's an enclosed league, so you need that competitive nature. And I think that is something that a lot of people are missing, because if they play FPL and try draft, well, if you play a random draft against people online that you don't know, through the FPL site, then you're kind of defeated before you even start, because people just stop playing instantly. You'll win it by 200 points and it won't be fun at all. But if you can find yourself either a competitive group of friends and I would always suggest putting something on the line, whether it's money or forfeits or whatever, even pride, as long as it's people that you know will really care, it makes a massive difference. If you don't know anyone that wants to try it and you want to try draft in a competitive league, then you can always DM me on Twitter or leave a comment down in the YouTube comments. I'll get back to you, because I am one of the admins of a massive group of draft leagues. We've got about 200 managers, we've got varying buy-in amounts, we've got a pyramid league system with promotion and relegation. There's something for everyone really, and I don't organise it. I'm just one of the admins that kind of help out, but I will say it's a really, really good system. Competitive managers that all want to get involved. It is tough competition, like people, it's that some of the leagues in there are the very best of the best managers, but if you want to really get your teeth stuck into it, then just let me know and I'll get back to you. So that kind of wraps up my first video of the new season really. I just kind of wanted to point out, because there's a lot of frustration in the FPL community, especially from kind of older time managers, that it's getting too easy and this and that, but I do think people should give draft a go, because playing alongside regular FPL, it's a massive improvement in both games in my opinion. So yeah, thank you for watching. As I said, the standard FPL draft schedule will be back next week. I've got a ream of videos that are going to be coming out with everything you need to get set up for your draft, and there's going to be a load of Patreon content coming out as well. So if you do want to get set up for the new season in the best possible way, hit the link down below for the current Patreon, and that would be very much appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week with my top 10 players. The rankings have been started, and I'm going to be releasing my initial top 10 next week, so make sure you're back for that. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.